Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch III, coming to you live from the Palatial Studios of On Spot Productions here in the beautiful city of Santa Ana, California, for yet another episode of Not Quite After Midnight. A very special episode, in fact. First, I am joined in studio by my friend, my brother in Christ, the disembodied voice of Rudy.
Hi, everybody, I love you all. Waka waka with the Lord.
And joining us from a more than acceptable safe social distance through the miracle of telephony is my guest for today, Rob Ekno. How you doing, Rob?
Yay!
Good to see you all, and those who I can't see, great to be able to share some God with you, Rudy. I know you don't like God too much, so we won't talk about him all that much for you, Rudy. Rudy is a God junkie, folks.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yes, sir.
Now, I have a new opening question I'm working on, and so here it goes. Rob, who are you reading?
Yes. I'm sorry?
What are you reading now?
What
are you reading?
I reading now? I'm actually, to be honest, I'm reading.
Yes, what are you reading these days?
I'm reading my faith-based film script so that I can edit it to make sure that it honors the Lord and we get it out there in a amazing manner to glorify Him.
Absolutely, that's a great thing to read. And now's really the hot time to do faith-based media. Rudy and I just finished watching the second season of The Chosen.
Yes.
And while it certainly requires an asterisk for anyone watching because it's not all in the Bible, so we don't know everything that's going on. They are making up quite a bit of it, but the stuff I've seen, except for the seeming to give Mary Magdalene the background of a prostitute, which is not biblical, I really haven't seen anything that's unbiblical about it, or at least counter biblical. But yeah, then my church, Rudy and I and my church went to the theater to see Jesus Revolution, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. I have not seen it,
Have
but
you
I
seen
hear
it yet?
from many that I haven't had the honor of seeing it yet, Bill, but I have heard from many that it's absolutely marvelous.
Yes, it's given me all sorts of ideas about what we can do with my little church.
Absolutely,
we've got room for maybe 30 people in the sanctuary, but we have a internet ministry that's reaching at least 3 times that on a weekly basis.
Well, Bill, with that said,
so exciting things, and we're.
Yeah, well, with that said,
Yes,
then
sir.
you should have the bald man when I'm in Los Angeles. You should have me stroll down there, and I can share about my testimony, which is aired on the 700 Club, as you may know, and the books that God has me writing. And I will come down there and razz up your 30 folks and those online, and we'll have ourselves an awesome Sunday.
We could easily do that on a Friday. I can certainly arrange that. We'll see about
Friday's
Sunday
even
morning.
better. There you go.
Do you speak Spanish by any chance?
Let's see. I can say
You
El
speak
Pollo
Spanish,
Loco. No, I can say El Pollo Loco. That's about that's. No, I can tell you a funny story about that, though, quickly. When I was in high school, I grew up in New England, and we had a choice of taking a language, right? And we had to either take German, French, or Spanish. So I'm a 16-year-old kid sitting in this little state of Rhode Island, and I'm like, okay, well, Germany is like way over in Europe, so I'll never be over in Germany, and so there's no sense in taking Germany. And I said, and Mexico is 3,000 miles away from Rhode Island, so I'll never be in Mexico, so I don't need to learn Spanish. And so I said, French is the other option. And I don't really think I'll be to France, but I was a Boston Bruins hockey fan at the time. And I said, well, maybe I'll go to a Bruins game up in Montreal or something like that one time. So I'll take French. And I took French, and I got straight A's in French.
Did you ever go?
Never been to Montreal. Can't tell you anything besides Zero Bella Robert. That's about all I remember. And now I'm like kicking myself that I did not learn the Spanish language. Although, I know tidbits from, being out here for 30 years. So, I can tell when people are saying things that they shouldn't be saying.
Yeah, I can tell that. I've been going to this church now for 2-3 years, somewhere around in there.
Nice.
And I barely know enough Spanish still to order at a Mexican restaurant.
There you go. Shrimp fajitas, that's what I get all the time.
I get the gist of things. Actually, I bought these. There you go. Fajitas de camarón. Camarones.
Fajitas de camarón. There you go.
See, I'm Hispanic, and my mom and dad never taught me Spanish.
Yeah. Rudy doesn't know. Well, he knows more Spanish than I do.
I know the bad words, but
he knows the bad words.
I don't use them.
Rudy.
No, you just use the English bad words.
Yeah.
There you go.
Remember, John said, I do what I'm not supposed to do, and what I'm supposed to do, I don't do.
Paul said that.
Paul said that. I'm sorry.
Yep.
There you go.
I do what I shouldn't do, and I don't do what I should do.
There you go. Good stuff.
It's tough to get out of those kinds of habits. Yep. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I got after the family church closed up back in 2020, I think it was 2019, 2020, somewhere around in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then I felt led to go to the Hispanic church that used to rent our fellowship hall, and I went. And I said, I want to be a member of your church, and they said to each other, what are we going to do with this guy? He doesn't speak Spanish. And now I'm responsible for getting the services and everything uploaded for podcasting and YouTube and all that, and I'm building the website. I'm actually going to build 2 websites, one in English and one in Spanish, because they do want to do English language ministry. Because there's a larger, a growing group of second generation Hispanics who speak primarily English, and they're not really interested in going to a Spanish speaking church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
It's really kind of interesting. I mean, like your last book says, is it God or coincidence? And I believe in coincidences. They happen all the time, but I don't trust them. They're too convenient. I get the feeling somebody's planning things. So
yeah. So on that note, if I can share a quick story with you that just happened over the last few days, this just has absolutely blown me away. And the book that you're talking about, Is It God or Coincidence, right? Coming to grips with the unexpected wonders in life. And we were blessed to be a finalist in one of the book awards, best book awards. So that was pretty cool, out of thousands of entries from around the world. So just this week, awesome. There's a faith. It was a very good, nice blessing for sure. So just this week, right? There's a faith-based film being written about that book, and we're almost done. And there's an award-winning scriptwriter that stepped up and said, "Hey, man, I love the story. Let me write the story for you about the movie." And I'm like, "Okay, great." Well, he's won awards and he's been teaching for years and all of this good stuff, so he knows what he's doing. I've never written a script before, so I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be fabulous," And so he writes it, but then he ends up, Bill and Rudy, he ends up throwing in all of this stuff that had nothing to do with the book, right? Like the book is a very inspiring book. The stories are very touching, and people have, come to me with tears after reading the book and stuff and telling me how much it impacted their lives and how much it got them thinking about their relationship with the Lord, all kinds of good stuff, right? And this writer writes in all this stuff. And I was literally sitting on the couch reading the script, crying, not good, but bad, because it was like he killed all these amazing experiences that God had given me to experience that I wrote about in the book, that also brought tears to other people's eyes, which was what the movie was supposed to be about, right? So I said to the guys, listen, I'm going to have to be a part writer on this script. I know the agreement is that you and your partner are going to write it, but what you gave me is not acceptable, because it's not honoring and glorifying the Lord as I expected you guys to do. And so we need to do that. I'm not going to sell something that dishonors the Lord, because every time I sit down to type, whether it's a book, a script, whatever it might be, I ask God, I said, Lord, please give me the words and the stories that you want me to write in this particular piece of work to honor and glorify you. And the script that he gave me back did not do that. So I spent last weekend reading over the script and editing stuff and changing things to honor and glorify the Lord. I retyped the script. So Monday morning, I go down to a Kinko's in the San Fernando Valley, and I'm there, and I just got done recopying this script, right? And I call it God's Perfect Plan is the tentative title to it. And so I'm standing there, and this Mexican gentleman, I know that because he introduced himself as a 65-year-old Mexican gentleman. That's how he introduced himself. He just comes up to me out of the blue while I'm putting the things, putting the brads in the holes to hold the script together. Just comes up to me out of the blue and says, hey, my grandfather says that any day on this side of the grass is better than a day on the other side of the grass. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. Anyways, Bill, we end up starting this conversation. And we end up walking out to the parking lot, and we're standing out there with all the morning rush hour traffic going by and stuff, and horns going off, and everything else. And we're talking, and I shared with him that I just did this faith-based film script. I had to edit it because this guy took a lot of the good godly stuff out and threw all this other stuff in there. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm a devout Catholic. I'm very dedicated. I was born in Texas, but my family's in Mexico. And we love the Lord. We love Mother Mary, all of this stuff, right? And he said, God just told me to tell you that you need to keep writing your books the way you're writing them and doing the movie the way you're doing it, because your books are all about hope and faith. And the world is lacking a lot of hope and faith right now. And God needs you to keep getting your stories out to help him get the message out of hope and faith. And I'm like, wow, I'm blown away, right? Here's a complete stranger just comes up to me to give me this message, because I was wondering, I'm taking all this negative nonsense out of the film because this guy's like, the only way it's going to sell is with all of this negative stuff in there. And I'm like, but it's supposed to be an uplifting something to honor the Lord with, that people can look at, like you and Rudy were saying, you watch the Jesus Revolution and all these movies and stuff. And it's supposed to be something where you walk out of the theater going, oh my gosh, that was wonderful. Right? Not, oh my God, that was, what was that?
Be a little choked up.
And so Bill, this will blow you and Rudy away here. Rudy, be paying attention now, young man, all right? Because I'm going to quiz you on this. Okay. I am like right? I'm like the most claustrophobic guy on earth, right? Nothing. I can't have anything around my neck. Notice I got open shirts and stuff like that, right? And so a few weeks back, my my girlfriend is a devout Catholic, and she's very dedicated to her church. And so I go to church with her, right? And so I walk out of there about a month ago. And as I'm walking out, the jacket that I got from my father after he passed a year or so ago, I reach into my pocket and there's a medal in there of the Mother of Hope, right? And I'm like, what is this? How did this get in my jacket? And I showed it to the father, and he looks at it and he goes, wow, I've only seen like 2 of these in my lifetime. This is from like 1870. This is a really rare medallion. And I'm like, okay. And so my friend Jim is there, and he makes rosaries. That's his hobby. And he says, hey, why don't you give me that? I'll put it on a chain for you. And I'm like, all right, you can put it on a chain, but I don't wear things around my neck because I cannot handle things on my neck, right? But I'll let you put it on a chain. Well, he puts it on a chain. And so I wore it one night. I took it off. And then the next night I put it on. And somehow this mother of hope, I have not taken off in a month, whether I'm sleeping, walking, exercising, anything. And I don't even realize that it's on my neck. It's pretty incredible, right? So while I'm standing in the parking lot talking to this guy, his name is Joe. He's standing there, and I went to get a book for him. I said, "Would you mind if I blessed you with one of my books?" He's like, I would love them, And so I go to my trunk to get him, and I came out and I said, Joe, and I told him this story I just told you. Now, guys, this just absolutely blew me away. So as I went to get the Mother of Hope out of my shirt, this guy who I never met a day in my life is standing there with his fist like this, right? The second I pulled this out without ever telling him what I was doing, he opens the palm of his hand and he's got another Mother of Hope just like this in his freaking hand. And he looks at me and he says, I knew exactly what you were going to pull out of your neck.
Wow.
And I just stood there. I'll see if I can find the picture on my phone here while we're babbling on. And I just stood there and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Right? And so we end up talking, and here it is. I think you guys can see that, right? So this is mine and his side by side. Mine on my chain, and his was on his keychain. I mean, what are the odds of that, right? Now, you think about how much of, coincidence, right, that is. But now I'm going to really blow you away, Rudy. So that was Monday. Tuesday, the next day, 3 towns over, all right, I had to go to the doctor's for something, come back, and I had re-edited the script from that script that I did that day on Monday. I re-edited it Monday night. So Tuesday, I stop at another a Kinko's copy place 3 towns over. After I get out of the doctor's, I'm facing the road the way the copy machine was, and I wasn't there for 2 minutes, and the freaking same guy, Joe, pulls up next to my car and parks and comes walking into Kinko's again. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, yesterday I forgot to take a picture of our Mothers of Hope together. And he comes in, he says, well, your message today is that I had your 2 books on the counter. And my wife said, where'd you get those from? He said, I was talking to the author yesterday, and he gave them to me. And he told his wife about the guy trying to add all this nonsense, non-Jesus stuff, non-God stuff. And he said, my wife told me to tell you that next time I saw you, because we had actually exchanged cards so we could have coffee. So eventually we would have seen each other. He said, my wife wanted me to tell you that you need to keep writing about God and being true to yourself, because the world needs those stories out there. They don't need the nonsense. I mean, listen, you would probably agree, Bill and Rudy, I could probably hit the lottery 10 days in a row without this guy Joe showing up at 2 places back-to-back days, 2 totally different cities, never met the guy a day in my life, and he's standing there with the Mother of Hope. Which his pastor also told him that it was an extremely rare metal. So the fact that, and then so I took a picture with it. I put his and mine on top of my script, and I blessed the script with our Mothers of Hope. I mean, you talk about, is it God or coincidence? And you say that something has a plan. Clearly.
Yeah.
But think about this now, right? You want to really get blown away. So think about the magnitude of the whole thing, right? So last February is when I normally would have taken my annual physical with my doctor. And for whatever reason, I ended up taking it in August instead, right? then one of my numbers on my blood test was off. And so they sent me to a doctor, a specialist, who wanted me to do another blood test in 3 months to see if the numbers went down and stuff. So if I had gone to the doctor in February and my numbers were high, they would have gotten me to a doctor in like April or May, right? And this would have already been taken care of. But since I didn't go there till August, they didn't get me into a specialist till November. He said to wait 3 months, which happened to be just the other day, to go in to get my blood test. Otherwise, that would have never happened. So think about, and my doctor had to refer me to that specific urologist, which got approved by, I mean, think about what actually went into that meeting of me and Joe just on Tuesday, the second day, right? So there's all this. So when we don't think,
it's mind-boggling.
When we're up there and when we don't think, like you said, there's no coincidence. So when we don't think that God is like 50 miles ahead of you and me and Rudy and all of our wonderful audience listening here today, he's so far in front of us. It's like, and yet you and I will sit there sometimes and we'll worry about things in life. It's like, what on God's green earth do we have to worry about? He's created all these bushes and trees and wind and snow and all the oceans and all of this stuff. And you don't think that he can handle Bill's little problem because he doesn't know how to speak Spanish, or Rob's little problem because he's got a guy writing stuff about it. I mean, it is so minuscule in the scheme of things. It's amazing.
It truly is mind-boggling. I mean, sometimes I think about what it took to get me here now to be podcasting with you and all the other guests I've had and the shows I've done with my father and those things. It's like it's ridiculous. The divorce happened, which moved me back to Santa Ana, which moved me back into the old family church, which led me to meet Pastor Andy and get on the radio show on AM 830 and decide when that show ran its course that I should take the message online and continue it and develop it to the point where now I'm doing 2 shows a week with my father and Rudy. Strictly on biblical stuff. We do a Bible study, and then we do a topical study on Saturdays. And and having Not Quite After Midnight on Thursdays, and or whenever I happen to remember to post them. I have to set an alarm to post up the show these days, otherwise I'll forget. Because I'm busy. And that stuff too. I mean, I'm building an automated CRM for people that'll help authors and people in the music business and people in brick and mortar businesses and people who want to get their business online and all of that stuff. It's just awesome. Actually, I'm going, since I mentioned it, I'm going to do a break real quick. To put in the ad.
Are you tired of being bogged down by tedious paperwork and repetitive tasks? AutomateU.co can give you the edge you need to succeed and stay ahead of the competition. With our innovative automation solutions, you can save time, reduce costs, increase efficiency, and grow sales across your entire business. Revolutionize your business with AutomateU's innovative automation solutions. Stay ahead of the competition and boost your bottom line with streamlined processes, increased efficiency, and enhanced sales growth. Try AutomateU.co today and start achieving your business goals faster than ever before. Get your 30-day free trial now at AutomateU.co.
Okay, we're back.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Huh?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're having fun. See, I told you that commercial wouldn't be very long. Got to make my money somehow. But yeah, it's just amazing the things that have happened, and really this segment of my life has happened because of something terrible, my divorce, which was a huge deal to me emotionally, and it really put me into a dark place, and this is where God took me. And it's amazing. I'm loving doing the podcasts and helping people get their businesses online and all the other things. So
well,
it's incredible.
Bill,
Like your book says, it's not coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I've been told that sometimes God strips us down to nothing, so all we have is Him, and then He uses us and He molds that clay. And He builds us into that magnificent thing. So here you are, you go through a divorce and you had a church going, different things going on, and all of that stuff ended. And then all of a sudden, now you're doing all of this other new work for the Lord. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with me happened is after my divorce, a year later, I ended up in Alaska. I'm thinking my life is over. I go from beautiful, sunny Southern California up to Alaska. And I can't even tell you the incredibleness and the all of the gloriousness of God that has happened. And I now have my next book out, Cruising Toward Heaven, Navigating from Rough Seas to Miraculous Adventures. And that I actually took that picture in a very secluded part of Southeast Alaska. One day I was out on working on a private cruise ship. And again, all of my books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart.com, all of that. But I will have a series of Cruising Toward Heaven.
And at RobEkno.com.
There you go. And at RobEkno.com, all of it is on there, correct, as well. And you can actually see my crazy testimony. Bill's this podcast will be listed up there as soon as that gets put up there as well. But you can see my crazy testimony that aired on the 700 Club a few years back, and you really get to see. But so the point is that, the Lord had you go through certain experiences. You went through those, and same thing with me. It's very depressing when those things happen. You're down and out. You're like, is the Lord still in my life? Why would this happen? Right? It's always when we're down and out, we're tired. We're always asking, where's the Lord? This shouldn't be happening. But the Bible says that life is not meant to be fair. It's meant to be worth it. Right. And so as my good friend Tony, my 96-year-old spiritual guidance man, who's a huge Jesus freak, he always says to me, remember, Rob, the Lord causes all things to come to good for those who believe in Him. So that means all the people that kick you when you're down and try to knock you down and all of that stuff. All of that is being used by you in what you're doing now to be of service to others who are seeking the Lord. My job, he asked this guy who, I could barely pass English in high school, and now he's got me writing books, and I'm thrilled. And, I got an email the other day, because you never know why we're doing stuff, and you never know who's listening, right? You never know who's listening to your show and who's might show up at church with you or who might. So I get a text the other day from a gentleman who I've known for a long time, but and this latest book that I have is basically my testimony of when I started drinking and snorting cocaine and all of that stuff, to how all the lessons I learned along the way of building a relationship with God, throwing away a relationship with God, and all of that good stuff in between to finally get to where I am today. And I turn on my phone the other day and I get this message, and we'll see if you guys can see this. So it says, Rob, just finished Cruising Towards Heaven, and what a story. This book is going to save someone's life. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, how amazing is that the Lord would use me? I mean, is that crazy or what?
Mm-hmm.
So we never, it
absolutely is.
And that's from somebody who's not an alcoholic, definitely not an alcoholic, definitely not a drug addict. That's the impression that he got from reading that. And there was one of the stories that I love is one of the gals that read the book. She read it in one day. It's 300 pages, but she sat there. She was so enthralled by it that she read it all in one day. And so she calls me afterwards, and she's down in Miami. And she says, I just want to thank you very much for writing that book. You just helped me with something that's been I've been avoiding for 30 years. And one of the stories in this book is about how I was ungrateful that once I got off of drugs and alcohol and I had a little bit of sobriety under my belt, about 6 months, my dad back in Rhode Island gave me this old Chevy Chevette from 1984. And it had roll-up windows, no air conditioning. The seats were dirty. The paint was falling off. And before I got drunk and stoned and ended up homeless, I had been driving a Jaguar. I had a pretty good broadcasting. So my dad gives me this car, and I'm like, Dad, are you serious? I didn't say that to him. I said to my old girlfriend, I said, is my dad serious about this? He expects me, right? This guy that was just homeless like a few months ago, that has a couple months of sober, that's lost everything under the sun. And here's my dad giving me something to help get me out to Hollywood so I can go live my dream. And I'm like, God, how can I drive this piece of crap, right? And the story is in here in the book. And it talks about how one day it finally died on me out here on the freeway out here in Glendale, California. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do without that car now? And all of a sudden that thing that I had been calling a piece of crap for like 3 years now became like a Bentley to me, because I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And anyways, the girl the lady that read the book in one day, she had the same thing happen to her and she happens to be a recovering alcoholic as well. Her father gave her a used Lincoln.
Wow.
Way back when she was getting back on track, and she looked at him and said, don't you know who I am? I'm not taking this piece of crap from you. Same thing, because that's the mindset of alcoholics and addicts. We're in the gutter, and yet we think we're better than everybody else. It's like, it's a crazy thing. So anyways, she, after reading that story, she said, Rob, I immediately picked up the phone and just had a wonderful conversation. I should have done this 30 years ago. I owed my dad an amends. And because of your book, I was just able to call him and have an incredible conversation. And I just finally made my amends after all these years to my dad. So thank you for writing this book. So we never know when we do things, when you do a podcast, whatever it is you're doing, you run your church, we write books, whatever it is. If we have the Lord in mind and doing good for him, he'll bring the people that need to see or hear or read the message that he's asked us to deliver to them. Amen?
Amen to that. Yeah, it's remarkable. And it's got to be so fulfilling and rewarding to hear stories like that from people. And this one is, wait a minute, Cruising. Wait a minute. Shoot, now I can't remember the new book. What's the new book name?
Cruising Toward Heaven, Navigating from Rough Seas to Miraculous
Cruising Toward Heaven, Navigating Miraculous Adventures. And, of course, you can find that on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold, or at robekno.com.
Absolutely.
And, I'll have the link in the description so people can find it real easily.
Yes, and I would like to share, because I would like to share quickly, Bill. I don't know who's listening, but if anybody from a church anywhere is listening, I would love to come in and be able to share the goodness of the Lord, bring my books, whatever it may be, but just a life of stories that the Lord has asked me to get out there. So anybody who's, whether it's a small congregation, a large congregation, whatever it may be, when two or more are gathered, there's the Lord in the midst. So I am there.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna talk to my people and see when we can get you on the schedule. We'll have a chat.
So is that like a Hollywood thing, Bill? You're going to have your people talk to my people, and then my people will talk to me. Your people will talk to you, and then they'll get together, and all our people will... people that aren't in Hollywood may not get that one, but it's like, it's like if I want Bill to do something and I go, hey Bill, can you help me out? And Bill will say, well, Rob, you know what? Let me talk to my people and let me have my people call your people. And it's so weird because it's just like, Bill and Rob just can't say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's just do that. Oh, it's the way of the world.
I want to do it, and I'm sure we will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just having a little
I'm sure
good
we will
humor
have you over there, and yeah,
I will be.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny to say my people and your people, and we all have people. We all have people now.
Well, the good thing is, Bill and Rudy, is that we're all God's people and we're all God's children, and He has a special purpose for each one of us. So that's the key to success, and hopefully through shows like this, and books like mine and other projects that He asks others to do, that more people will come to find their purpose for Him if they haven't found theirs yet.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of your script, is there a role in there for an overweight, balding guy with a beard?
Than's Bill
that
for
sounds...
recommending me.
Huh?
Yep, thanks for recommending.
Oh yeah,
like...
no, I'm kidding.
Oh, Rudy's been in movies. He was in American Me.
Wow, what do you know? So you guys are going to have to
James
send me some. All right, well, you guys are going to have to send me some autographed 8x10s. Yes, by the way, on the...
But you know what the thing that was terrible? The movie that
I believe the chef would be the great
role. You broke
role.
up there for a second.
Yeah.
The chef. Okay. I can do that.
It's only a bit part. It's only a bit part, but you do have a few lines, and it's a very significant few lines.
Cool. There are no small parts, only small actors. And I'm almost 6 feet tall, so I don't think I qualify as small.
There you go.
6 feet tall and 6 feet wide.
I want to be the hobo on the corner.
Yeah, well, actually, in the movie, if it's produced the way that we have it, it's one of the stories in my my other book, Is It God or Coincidence, where a young gentleman was stumbling down the street, and I saw him, and this is in Juneau, and he was drunk, plastered, whatever he was, stoned. And I saw him, and I got him out of the street, and we ended up having a conversation. He ends up pulling up the shirt sleeve on his jacket on the sidewalk, and from his elbow to his wrist, he had cut his forearm 3 times, trying to kill himself about an hour before I ran into him. Wow. And that's one of the stories that's in the book. And in the the wonderful thing was that I got to share God with him, and all of a sudden he reaches into his pocket of his jacket and he just casually hands me the bloody knife that he tried to kill himself with, and he gave me a big hug and a thank you and walked away. And I've every time I'm in Juneau, I always ask to see if anybody has seen him around. And at least for the first couple of years, people saw him. He might have left town by now, who knows? But anyways, but he stayed alive, because, here's the deal so in the movie, the way I wrote it in the script is that I run into this guy, which is the story. And then I ask him, I say, are you all right? And he says, no, I'm actually not all right. And then he shows me the 3 cuts, and then I have this God talk with him, and then I say, Ben, things are going to be okay. And he says to me, looks at me, and he says, actually things might be okay, because the reason I tried killing myself was because I didn't think anybody cared about me. And the fact that you, as a perfect stranger, have said hi to me and talking to me right now It seems like you actually care. So yeah, maybe things will be all right for me. And I share that because I was at church a month or two ago, and the pastor for his homily was doing, or the father for his homily was doing research on homeless people, right? Because obviously, especially in Los Angeles, it's a huge problem, but pretty much all over the place here, even all over Juneau. So whether I'm in Juneau or LA area, I'm dealing with large homeless. But do you know this? That 73% of all homeless people only hear their names said to them once every 3 months. That's a statistic that the father at the church I went to a few weeks back came up with to do his homily. Can you imagine that? So these people are out there thinking nobody cared. A few years, you guys would, I think your audience would love this one too. A few years ago, I was in LA and I was in North Hollywood, and they have a big park over there, walking around and stuff. And I saw this gentleman sitting there. He was homeless, and I didn't have a lot of money in my pocket and stuff, but I had enough to buy him a burger and stuff. And so I said to him, I said, "Hey, can I buy you a burger for lunch and some fries or something like that? You know, would you like that?" He said to me, he said, "Listen, I will accept your offer, but I will only accept it under one condition." I said, "What's that?" He said, "You have to eat with me." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm a homeless veteran, came back from the wars. I've been living out here on the street. I get to go over to Brentwood to the VA hospital once a week and get a checkup and stuff. But other than that, I'm sitting in this park all day long by myself. My life is so lonely. I have no friends. So if you'll eat with me." And I said, "Absolutely." So I drove him over to this little burger joint. It's a private little burger joint, one of them little shacks on the corner, you know, where you get good burgers. And it was funny because we're sitting out there eating on a glorious day, right? And Rudy, Bill, I tell you this, it was glorifying to see him smile, but it was so sad because all the other customers that walked by us were looking at me like, "Dude, do you realize that guy's homeless right there?" You know, you could see it in their eyes and the way their body language was. It was like they were trying their best to not come anywhere near us because I was eating with this homeless person, and they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Why would you sit with this human being here that's like, you know, and, you know, the Bible tells us very clearly, right? That
not even a human being.
Yeah, those who take care of the least of these, I will reward, the Lord says, right? And so, I mean, what we forget about is as much as we want to lash out and say, "Oh my God, these people are taking up the sidewalk and they're doing crazy stuff out here and all kinds of unsafe things and unhealthy things," we fail to remember that every one of those human beings, not one of them, guarantee, I'll bet you everything I own, not one of them grew up and said, "Bill, Rudy, Rob, I can't wait to get to be a junkie, man, and start sticking needles in my arm and living on the street. Man, I can't wait to do that. I'm just loving. I'm so impatient. Hurry up, you know, get me there." Right? Not one of them. But life happened, right? Life happened to them for whatever it happened. And the biggest thing we got to remember is every one of those people out there, is somebody's son and somebody's daughter. And most importantly, they are the son and daughter of our Most High Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And yet, people look at them like they're trash, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
they do. We here on the show, we have a soft spot for mental health. And I know there are a lot of issues out there among the homeless population. I personally struggle with major depression and ADD, and then and Rudy, you mind if I say it?
Yes,
you want
Go ahead.
No, Rudy has bipolar depression, and we're well medicated, cruising as it were. and getting professional help and where it's needed. And and we like to end the end credits with a reminder that 988 is the number to call if you're having a mental health crisis. Need some help, like Ben with the suicide attempt. So it's so much easier now to make that call. It used to be that long number you had to dial the whole 800 number and everything, and now it's just 988 and you're done. And
well, and it's so good that you guys are taking care of yourself, that you love yourself enough to be able to go and get that. And it's not even in the 12-step program, right? If you have the big book that they use for, all of the anonymous programs, it says right in there, we don't claim to have all the answers. And if you need outside help, do not hesitate to get it. Right. So if you need antidepressants, if you need therapy, physical or mental, if you need whatever, go get it, because you only have this one opportunity on this planet to be all that God created you to be. And each one of us, your testimony, Bill, your testimony, Rudy, my testimony from homeless to, oh, by the way, since the last time I saw you, I was blessed to be able to celebrate 30 years of sobriety a couple months ago. So, we all have a testimony. Sure. Thank you very much. I mean, look at Paul, the crazy stuff that guy did. And then he ends up writing like half of the New Testament, right? We all have a special purpose, and not one of us has to be ashamed of who we are, because if we were, that would be an insult to God, because he created every one of us and he only creates the best. But we all have stuff to walk through, and your testimony will touch certain hearts, and Rudy's will touch certain hearts, and mine will touch certain hearts, right? And the folks in your church, they'll share stories and they'll touch each other's hearts and so on. But we should never be ashamed of talking about our story, because if we are, that means we're ashamed of who God made us. Think about that.
Yeah.
And
you wouldn't be ashamed if you had cancer or diabetes or something like that might require surgery or medication and treatment. It's just like, it's mental health is like physical health. You need to go to a professional, get the stuff you need, get the treatment you need. And if that means medication, that means medication. If that means therapy, that means therapy. Whatever it is, whatever it takes to get healthy. You wouldn't be ashamed if you broke your leg. You might feel embarrassed that you tripped and fell, but that's it. It'd be passing. You'd go to the ER and get it set, and that would be that. And people need to consider that when it comes to their mental well-being.
Even in the 12-step programs, right, the recovery programs, people very, very rarely share about depression. And yet, alcohol, drugs, all of that stuff are very depressing substances that we put into our bodies, those of us who have made those choices in the past and those who are doing it now. But the point is, when somebody actually shares like you did, Bill or Rudy, and says, hey, I'm going through this and I'm on, all of a sudden, like 50 people in the room jump up and go, oh my God, thank God somebody is talking about this, because everybody is so ashamed. Nobody talks about it because they're going to think people think they're less than. And it's like the Bible says, why do you people as men listen to what other men have to say about you? I'm the one who loves you. I'm the one who rewards you. I'm the one who's going to bless you and give you your gifts that no man can. So why are you focused on these people who maybe aren't loving and supporting you, right? If somebody doesn't love you, Bill, because you're on some kind of thing because your mind needs to be fixed in certain ways, I mean, do you really want them in your life? I mean, you want people that are there to love you and support you and say, Bill, man, you're doing an awesome job on this podcast, man. You're doing an awesome job building the websites for people and helping that church run together. And even though you don't speak the language, you speak the language of the Lord and the heart, and you can all come together and understand love together. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about walking around this world being ashamed of who we are. Every time I say, blah, 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 this, that, all I'm doing is saying, hey, God, you screwed up. Yep, you screwed up again because I'm dumb. You screwed up again because I'm on medication. Lord, you had no clue what you were doing. Obviously, you must have been drunk the day you created me. That's not the way it happened at all. It's our own insecurities that we're laying out to the world, and we're not trusting in the Lord, and we're not being grateful for all that he gave us.
Yep. Pick up your cross and follow him.
Yes.
That's what Jesus said. And that's what we need to do.
Yes.
It's for sure. Years ago I used to go to Celebrate Recovery with my friend Leah. My dearest of dear friends, Rudy's wife, who passed away back in 2019. She got me into Celebrate Recovery, and I was the only. There were like a handful of women in the women's group who were there for depression. But I was the only guy. Everybody else was either sexual addiction or drugs or alcohol, and they didn't even have a book for men on depression at the time. And lo and behold, then came another guy, and then another guy, and then by the time I stopped going, there were like 3 or 4 guys there who were there for depression and going through the steps to do that. And it was definitely an experience. And I blame Leah. No, she was an awesome person. She really was.
And Celebrate Recovery is an amazing thing because it brings together God-focused recovery. Right? So Celebrate Recovery is usually held at churches where the focus of recovery is saying we need the Lord. And the whole point of any 12-step program is so that hopefully you will find a power greater than yourself that you can relate to that will help you to stop living the insane life you're living. And then if you read the book just after that, the whole purpose of the book, of the 12-step book, is to help suit us to be of maximum service to God and our fellows. That's the whole point. And our fellows doesn't say fellow alcoholics or addicts. Fellows is the world. Anyone in the world that needs help, the homeless guy on the street corner, the little lady pushing the cart down the street that just came out of the store and needs help carrying her bag, whatever it may be, letting somebody in on the freeway instead of speeding up so they can't get in front of you. Just let them in. I don't know where they're going. It doesn't matter. There's all kinds of choices I can make every day that are more godly. So I start my day every day and I pray and I say, Lord, thank you for another day. Please help me to do your will today, not my will be done. And please show me where I can be of maximum service to you and my fellows. And then throughout the day, all kinds of neat little things will happen. Like Bill Hatch will say, hey, you want to be on a podcast? Yes, I do. Before this, I was on one of my 12-step meetings, and then I'm writing my next book for the Lord right now. I got somebody editing the script for me. Actually, they're not editing. Yeah. It's somebody who watches a lot of faith-based films. I wanted to make sure that the film had enough tears in it of goodness and joy and uplifting and all this. So I have somebody reading it right now before I finally register it and get it off to producers and stuff. So, awesome. There's all kinds of things, but people think that they have to do these miraculous things on a daily basis, but really just saying hi to that stranger walking down the street, right? Think about this. You're walking down the street where you are, Santa Ana, California, Rudy and Bill, and you're walking down and there's somebody walking towards you and you wait. And as you're walking, you see that person figuring out most of the time. Every once in a while, somebody will say hi to you. But most of the time, my experience is the people be walking, and they're just waiting for that right moment to turn their head the other way from you and then walk right on by from you, right? And how much easier is it to just walk by somebody and go, hey, how are you? Have a blessed day. Boom. It doesn't matter whether they answer you or not. Mm-hmm. But like the other day, I was at my post office, and people were coming in and had big boxes. So I just stood there and held the door. And I usually like make a joke out of it. I'll say like, free door service here at the post office every Tuesday from 12 to noon or 12 to 2, whatever time I'm there. Right. I just pull it out of my hat. And then what happens is I'm holding it open for the people to go in. Now there's people coming out. And so I hold the door with them. I say, hey, have a blessed day. Have a blessed day. And it's just little things where we have a chance to bless another human being by just a small little random act of kindness that the Lord puts on and he gives us that opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he puts people in our way. And to go on what you said earlier, maybe instead of just saying hello, ask them their name and address them as such.
So
say hi, Joe. Hi, John.
Hi, Rudy.
Do you know something, Rudy?
Hi, Rudy.
Yes.
So you are 1,000,000% correct. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a YouTube deal called Love Thy Neighbor. And I have been having the most incredible experiences that you could ever imagine saying hi to strangers. And one of them was not that long ago. I was in Los Angeles, and I was out on a walk. And I saw this guy digging through the recycle bin, taking out bottles and cans. And I had saved up a bunch of them. And anyways, I said to the guy, I said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, just trying. He says, I can't see out of this eye. He was a Hispanic gentleman, probably in his mid-50s. He goes, I can't see out of this eye. I'm blind in this eye. So I need to get enough bottles and cans to go to the recycling thing to save up my money so I can see again. He says, you have no idea what it's like not to be able to see. And, you could tell that he wasn't the typical junkie type of guy, right? I got a lot of experience with that. So he was different. Something was different. And so he was around where I lived, and I said, you know what? I've got a couple of big bags I've saved up over the last few months. I've never brought them. Why don't you come over? I'll just give them to you, and you don't have to dig so much. That'll be your gift today. The Lord told me to give them to you. So he comes over, and we're standing on this busy street at 5:00 in the afternoon, rush hour traffic. And I go inside to get the second bag, and the Lord says, give the guy a $20 bill. And I'm like, okay. And I thought, you know what, Lord? Yeah, this guy doesn't look like the guy that's going to run to the liquor store and buy. He looks like he'd actually buy food, right? So I go outside and I say to him, I said, by the way, what is your name? Right. And he says, Rudy. And I said, Rudy, I'm Rob. And, and I introduced myself. And I said, Rudy, the Lord told me to give you this. And guys, I don't know if you ever heard a coyote when a dog got bit by a coyote at that moment and the dog yelps. I handed this guy the $20 bill, and I said, the Lord told me to give you this. And he looked at me, and he screamed as loud as a dog that got bit by a coyote. He was like the most grateful human being on planet Earth.
Wow.
And we got to have a hug and stuff, and he told me he's living on the street and this and that, and I gave him this whole thing of and I got to make a friend. And a couple weeks later, I was back in town, and I see him out again. And he sees me, and I got to go up to him. We just got to hug and have an embrace, and he had tears in his eyes again, just because another human being actually cared about him and didn't care about the fact that he was homeless, didn't care about the fact that he didn't have any money, didn't care about the fact that he didn't have any, all of this stuff. Somebody just cared because he was a child of God. And you have no idea the impact, just what you said, just saying, hi, what is your name, can do to change another human being's day.
Right. Yeah. So it's amazing what you can do when you make yourself a little vulnerable.
I like that.
And that's really what it is. It's people don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to expose themselves. And so they keep to themselves and, keep their eyes on the ground and and don't look up when you pass by. And and really it would change the world if you looked up and just said, "Hi, what's your name?"
Can I say something real fast?
Always.
You know what? Me, myself, I always give the word to gang members. I was a gang member, and I'm not really scared if anybody wants to fight me about things. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I think I'm blessed because I can walk up to a gang member. At first they look at me like, oh, is this going to go down? Like we're going to box or something? But then I tell them about God, and I tell them that God bless you because a lot of people don't want to talk to gang members. Some people are scared of them.
Yeah.
So I would always talk to them. Hey, even when I worked at the hospital, I would see some gang members or friends got shot or something. And I would walk up and they would kind of look crazy. And then I would say, hey, you know what? God bless you. Tell them about God. And right now I got a cross on my face. I got a tattoo of a cross because I never want to, nothing bad about Paul, but Peter, he denied Jesus 3 times. And I tell people, I don't want to even deny him 1 time. So, cut my head off. But,
Yep.
But it is
Rudy's a walking testimony.
Yes, I love God, and you know what? God gave me a big mouth, and it's beautiful. And I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That was a little story I'd like to say because some people don't want to talk to gang members or different things, and Well,
and then with talking to people who appear to be homeless, there's always that slim chance that they're the person who's out there trying to make a quick buck. I remember my dad told me about a story about there was a guy with a sign standing at the street corner out in their little town of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And so one of those small towns where everybody knows each other. There's like 16,000 people in the entire town. And there was this guy on the corner with his sign and said he was a homeless vet. And it was this guy went up to him. It was his job to help vets get their benefits, the benefits they have coming to them. And he goes up and he says, "Hi," goes to hand him his card. It says, "I do this and I take care of vets and we can get you the things you need that you deserve because you're a vet and the things you've earned." And the guy pushed him into traffic because he said he was making 6 figures a year, and this guy wasn't going to ruin it for him.
Hey.
Yeah, The guy got jail time for it, for pushing the guy into traffic, and it can be crazy. So you do have to be careful and mindful out there of people. Don't make yourself unsafe, but you do have to make yourself a little vulnerable to do God's will. I mean, Jesus went to see the lepers. He went to see the Samaritans, and most people don't understand. Watching The Chosen, I think they showed really well the hatred that the Samaritans had for the Jews. The Samaritans walking by and yelling at the disciples and throwing stones at them and spitting at them, and all that stuff really showed the hatred for them. But Jesus went there. He went there. He talked to a Samaritan woman. We can assume that he talked to a bunch of Samaritans because he stayed there for a couple days, and so we have to do these things too. We have to put ourselves in danger. Really, I mean, you're not necessarily going to Africa to preach to the isolated tribe with the spears and the throwing rocks, But we might put ourselves in a little bit of danger here in the good old U.S. of A.
Yeah. So anybody that wants to maybe have some stories to relate to, there's 3 stories specifically about my interactions with the homeless in this particular book. Is it God or coincidence? Coming to grips with the unexpected wonders in life. And anybody who's struggling with God, an ever-evolving relationship as I have had, anybody that's struggling with addiction, recovery, any of that stuff, this book here, Cruising Toward Heaven, navigating from rough seas to miraculous adventures, would be extremely helpful, I believe, to you. As I've shown earlier in the show, that somebody had said that this book was going to save somebody's life, and it may be yours. That maybe that's why you're listening right now. But I would like to touch on what Rudy said about the gang members.
That'd be so great.
Several years ago, I ran the homeless ministry at the Crystal Cathedral before it sold to the Catholic ministry down in Orange, your way, Bill. And I set up this big banquet thing. So we had about 300 people on Mondays coming into the place. And I was a few towns up, and I had other things to do to get this place set. So, the prison is right down the street, right? And so one of the guys that got out of there was this little guy named Billy, and he was about 5'6", 5'7", thin guy, maybe like 125, 135 pounds, maybe. And he was tattooed, bald guy, tattooed from head to toe. There wasn't an inch on Billy's body that didn't have a tattoo on it, right?
Wow.
And I'm driving down to the homeless deal on Mondays. I was the guy that oversaw the thing, the director of the Hope Center is what they called it. And one day God says to me, Billy's going to be your director of banquet facilities, right? So I needed someone to set up all the round tables, put tablecloths on it, put flowers on it, make sure all the chairs were set up and other things were set up in there. And I walked in one day and I grabbed Billy. Rudy, you could appreciate this. I grabbed Billy. I said, Billy, got an assignment for you. The Lord told me I got to put you to work. He says, what's that? I said, you're the new director of banquet operations here at the Hope Center. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, there's no physical pay, but you get paid with your meal, and you get paid with, the goodness of the Lord, and you get paid with self-esteem and knowing that, this is your deal. And if you want that on your resume, I'll be happy to put it on the resume that the girl up in the office will type for you. And he's like, well, why me? And I'm like, why not you? The Lord told me you. So I don't argue with the Lord, so I don't want you to argue with me. And I said, if anybody gives you any trouble, here's my cell phone. If I'm not here while you're setting up and stuff, just call me and I'll take care of it. But you're the new guy. You can handle it, right? I can handle it, but I just don't know why you would choose me. And I said, I didn't. The Lord told me to choose you. Apparently, the Lord's got a special deal for you. And you think about it, Rudy, right? Here's this young man, tattooed from head to toe, just got out of prison recently. But you could see the goodness in his heart. You could see he didn't want to do what he used to do, right? You could see he wanted to move on with his life. And for whatever reason, as everybody does, we make choices for whatever reason at the moment in time that we make them, right? And so what we were able to do in that was there's a wonderful lady named Irene who worked at the church, and she volunteered, and she would do job interview skills, and she would type a resume for the guys and gals, and I would let them use my cell phone. So they had a number, and I had a way to get a hold of them, even though they didn't have phones and stuff. And so I could get messages to them. And that's how we got them started, whether it was be planting the trees and the cutting the grass, whatever. And I could put something on a resume for them that said they were doing this and they had X amount of skills. And so Billy stepped up and he did it. And until the day that I left, he was rocking and rolling. Every week I came there, that place was set up so immaculately. He took so much pride in that and making sure the flowers were beautiful on the table and the cloths were nice and the chairs were all set up and there was no trash on the ground. And that's what it's all about. We're all God's children. Yeah. We make choices. Some people make a little bit more challenging choices than others. Look at the prisons are filled, as you know, Rudy, right, with all kinds of sons and daughters of mothers and dads who said, my son would never do that. My daughter would never do that. But yet the prisons are filled, right? So for whatever reason, they made those choices. For whatever reason, I made a choice to start drinking heavily and snorting cocaine and becoming homeless. And, I made these choices. God, not once did God ever. I share this with people all the time. There was never once when I was out there drinking and using that God ever woke me up one day and said, Rob, get up. You got to get down to the bar and guzzle down some vodka, call the dope dealer, go have fun with people all over town and do crazy things. God never did any of that stuff. Every choice I ever made was based on my own free will that he gave us because he loves us so much. Right? But what God did was for Rudy and Bill and Rob and our wonderful audience today, each of you that's listening, he let us do what we want, and he sat there and waited for us. And he said, when you're ready, my son, my daughter, I will show you the love of the Lord, if you want it. But I'm a gentleman. I'm not going to force it upon you. Like you said earlier, Bill, take up your cross and follow me. Right?
Right.
I don't know in the Bible, you're the theologian, I'm not, but I don't know anywhere in the Bible where it says, and then Jesus turned around and he kept looking to see who was following him. He just kept walking. Right. You want what I got? Keep walking with me. You don't want what I got?
Right.
Walk with me. That's the goodness. But none of us have fallen down the ladder too far, just like our friend Paul, just like Moses, who had killed somebody, just like David, just like all these people. The Lord used every single one of them, and even the message that Rudy just said about Peter denying the Lord 3 times. Look what it did. Look what it did to Rudy. It made Rudy say, "Hey, I don't ever want to be that guy." Right. And so even Peter denying the Lord 3 times had an impact on others around the world in a positive way to bring us towards Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of things, it doesn't take much, a little thing here, a little thing there. What was the name of that book? The Competitive Edge or the Slight Edge or something like that. But basically it was, promoting the idea of making small changes to what you do every day.
Yep.
And, it's like, I did the math once, but if you change 1% every day after a year, you'll have changed. It's actually like 400 and some odd percent. But because I did the actual math. Because on the first day you do 101%, then on the next day you do 101.1 or 102.1%, and so on. It kind of snowballs. But the math's not complicated, but I don't remember it anymore. I'll ask my sister; she's the math whiz. But the slight change
every day.
Yeah, and say hello to someone you haven't said hello to before. If you have to start smaller than that, start with a smile to someone, looking them in the eye, not in a confrontational way, but that way that dogs look at you when they care about you.
Yes. Yes.
That soft look.
Yes, for sure.
Speaking of, you have an 18-year-old dog.
I do. Jet.
Tell me about that.
Well, here's talk about a God story. All right. So when I'm in Los Angeles and not in Juneau, I volunteer at a wonderful animal rescue. And it's just an incredible facility.
Okay.
And it's a couple-hour drive up the freeway towards Bakersfield. And so I kept asking the Lord, Lord, why do you want me to drive 2 hours to go to, and that's one way. And then I spend usually anywhere from 5 to 8 hours there, usually closer to 8 hours. So it's a good 12-hour day and a lot of driving, 2 hours, so on. And I said, Lord, there's probably got to be 100 animal rescues in the San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles, Pasadena, whatever, right? And I said, why do you want me to drive 2 hours? And the funny thing is, I'm looking for one of his wonderful pictures. And so the funny thing is, all the way up the freeway, I go up the 14 freeway from Los Angeles when I'm going up there, and all the way up the freeway is or I should say it's like when you go into the Angeles Crest Forest, for anybody that's in the Los Angeles area, it has these wooden things, that look like they're carved out of a tree or whatever, and it'll have like, welcome to Los Angeles Forest, whatever. Up there on people's front yards, Bill, I don't know whether they carved them themselves, they paid to have them carved, whatever, but there's all this Bible scripture. And I'm like, well, that's really weird. And the road, the exit off the 14 that I get off of, this thing is at least 25 feet long and at least 7-8 feet high. And somebody made it out of brick, and it said, Jesus saves.
Wow.
Like right when I get off the freeway. And I'm like, okay, Lord. And then all the way up, it's like Yahweh this and Yahweh loves you, and John 3:16 on another spot, and then other spots it has other scripture, and I'm like, okay, wow. And then I get up there, and the maintenance guy comes up to me. He's a retired prison guard, and he comes up to me. He goes, hey, I just want to let you know my name is Dave, and I love the Lord. So when you're talking to me, I'm probably going to be mentioning something about the Lord. So I just want to let you know that up front. This is how I got greeted when I got there. And I'm like, so I volunteer there. I had a chance to do a lot of volunteer there for a 1-year period. I was there like every week, just pounding away the hours, helping them and doing all I could to help the dogs. Anyways, all of a sudden, there's a dog, 16-year-old dog named Jet. He gets dumped off at one of the shelters up there in Bakersfield, Kern County area, and the people just left him there. They walked in and said, we'll be right back. We're going to get some paperwork, and never came back. Wow. And anyway, so these are the kinds of dogs that we rescue at the ranch. They're I'm a volunteer, but the people that run it, this is what they look for. And so anyways, I was going back and forth there for a couple of months, and I couldn't get Jet to come within 30 feet of me, which is unusual because all of the other aggressive dogs, I was like the only volunteer that I could get close to them, right? There was another wonderful lady who's now actually the executive director. It's crazy how God works. That's wonderful. But I couldn't get Jet to come. He was so shy, so depressed, so down and out. And then I just told my girlfriend one day, I said, honey, I can't live my life without adopting Jet. And I think I know now why God wanted me to go up there. And Jet is deaf. He's old. He's black. And he's large. And he's got dementia. He had a minus 100% chance of ever making it out of that shelter if this wonderful animal rescue did not rescue them. And thankfully they did, because he is just like the most peaceful, loving dog. And I'm honored to be his daddy. And I will show you. This is the Jet Master, and he is just such a wonderful ball of love. And he has incontinence because he's old. So it's funny because I'll take him out for a walk. See if I can get some other pictures. My camera is loaded with Jet pictures. I can take him out for a walk for like an hour, and there's the Jetty Master. Where are we? There he is. and he is. It's funny because I'll take him out for a walk and stuff for an hour or so, or he'll play in the yard for an hour, and then he'll come in and he'll just walk in the living room and just like poop in the middle of the living room floor, and he doesn't know that he's doing it, And I think that's probably why maybe his old owners, let him go or something. But I figure whether it's outside, inside, I got to pick it up somewhere, right? And to have the love that this dog brings into our lives, It's beyond. So the point is that I'm asking the Lord, why are you asking me to go 2 hours one way each way to volunteer at this particular place? And it's the same thing as anything else in Lord life, right, Bill? Lord, why did my marriage end? Right? Rudy's like, why did I get into a gang, Lord? Why did I do that in the beginning? Why? We all can ask ourselves, why did we make these choices? And then because we made certain choices, why did these results happen? Right? Well, you got divorced. You chose that particular woman. I chose the particular woman I was married to, and Rudy chose the activities that he chose. And then we all are fortunate that we're blessed that we were able to receive the Lord just enough to get into that thick head of all of ours, just long enough to say, hey, maybe, just maybe, there's a better life out there for me. And even though somebody else may not want to be in my life or whatever, and I might have to go through some pain and suffering along the way, there's a reason the Lord is allowing me to walk through this with him, right? Because we're never alone. And now now Rudy is out there and he's producing your show. You're hosting your show. You're both involved with church. The Lord's got me writing books, and I get to have this amazing dog in my life. And we just never know. But I think the worst question that all of us, especially anybody seeking the Lord, I think the worst question we ask is why. Why, Lord? Right? There's a reason.
I don't think why is such a bad question.
And you may be right. I mean, I think
the problem with why isn't asking the question. The problem with why isn't asking the question. It's the direction people look to find the answer. Most people look at the past to find the why. But they're not. They're looking in the wrong direction. You need to look to the future to find why something happened. Yes. How is in the past? Why is in the future?
You see, and that's why I speak out loud, Bill, because I get to hear myself when I say things, and then others can. And yes, that's what I was trying to get at. Exactly what you hit on. It's like, why would this happen? And then all of a sudden, you 6 months later, or a year later or something, you're like, oh my gosh, now I know why. Mm-hmm. And so what I've learned to stop doing over the years is I don't ask why so much, because I just focus on, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust Romans 8:28 that you're bringing all of this stuff that's happening in my life that's crazy all to the head for something good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So what the world needs now is not only love, sweet love, as the song says, but faith and hope and knowledge in knowing, as you and your father teach in your biblical teachings, the knowledge of the word of the Lord, so that people know that either what it says in that book is true or the Lord's a liar, one or the other. There are no other answers, right? Either what he says is true or he's a liar. I wouldn't want to be the one going,
Lord, liar, lunatic.
Right? I mean, I wouldn't want to be the one taking a little journey up to heaven one day and go, oh, hey, you're that liar that I always you're the guy that's always lying to me. No, I don't think so. God gave me these books to write, and these books are all about stories of miraculous events that have occurred, that there's no way on planet Earth that they happened without a greater power on this planet than you or I could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible what's going on. And I think the world is ripe for a new Jesus revolution, a bigger one and a more effective one than the 70s saw, and definitely revival in the land.
Wow.
So your book, your script is going to hit at the right time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
your script is going to hit just at the right time. And ride this wave. It's going to be awesome. Who knows? Maybe what's his name? Jonathan Rumi will be in your movie too.
Here's the
It was
funny thing:
he plays Jesus in
The Chosen.
I think Jonathan Rumi is going to have to be in all the faith-based movies now, because he was Jesus in the Chosen. He was Lonnie Frisbee in Jesus Revolution.
Yeah, well,
this is pretty funny.
A couple weeks ago, he was actually at the church that I get to, and it was the 1 week where I was feeling under the weather, and I didn't know he was going to be there. And some friends from the church sent me some pictures and said, "Look, I just took a picture with Jesus." And listen, you know what you find out, Bill, is when you get going and you're true to yourself about your relationship with the Lord, because everybody's relationship should be their own. I believe in the Bible, it talks about the fact that the Lord is happy for each of us to just simply go into a closet and talk to him, right? He doesn't need us all on street corners and stuff, but he does need to reach more people. So that's why they have podcasts and books and things like that, right? And so, but as far as a personal relationship, he's happy to have you and Rudy, myself, and each one of our wonderful folks watching right now and listening to just simply go grab a little spot on the beach down in Huntington Beach or something like that, or just in their backyard under a tree, or literally sit on the edge of your bed and just talk to the Lord. And it's like he's there wherever we are. He meets us wherever we are at in our lives. He doesn't care. That's the funny thing. We go out and people go out, and especially in Hollywood, right? And even in Alaska, there's a lot of gold and oil money in Alaska, right? So people get the fancy houses and cars and all of this stuff. And it's like the Lord is sitting there going, I'm not really impressed, because I actually have all the cars and jewelry and houses and stuff I could ever need. You could never even come close to what I have or what I can give you. But what I've noticed from me, and I used to have a lot more as far as stuff, and I don't have as much stuff now, but what's happened is the lack of stuff gives me not so much responsibility. Like I don't have to worry about fixing a pool or putting a roof on the house, different things like that. And so I have more time to write my books for the Lord. I have more time to go speak at churches and Christian groups and rehab centers and be out there and doing physical work for the Lord, because I don't have to worry about so much stuff, and I'm not saying, listen, we all need a safe place to live and good food to eat and a safe car to drive and clean clothes and a shower and all that stuff. But do we need a 65,000 square foot mansion in Bel Air? Will we survive?
Yes, I do. Yeah. What is it? I'd be happy for the Lord to test me with outrageous amounts of wealth. So.
I like that. That's good.
But
have the opportunity at least, right?
No, what was the other one? Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the other one I used to joke about with Pastor Andy on the Old Your Wonderful Life show on AM 830 was whenever I grew up in a military family. My father was a Navy chaplain and a Marine chaplain and an Army chaplain at different times. And being in a military family, it was always assumed that you would be stationed next in the last place you wanted to go. And so if you were given the opportunity to request your top 3 assignments, you would put terrible places there. Oh yeah, I want to go to Diego Garcia, or I want to go to Africa or whatever. These horrible places. And so And so the same thing would apply to being called to the mission field. And so I decided I can never say, Lord, don't send me to darkest Africa. I'd have to say, Lord, please don't send me to Aspen. So, yeah, figuring that way he won't. Well, he sent me to Santa Ana, so I guess that was splitting the difference. But it's like, yeah, don't ever tell the Lord where you don't want to go, because that's where He's going to send you.
Well, and it's true, because I would have never thought that Alaska was going to be the absolute spiritual haven that it is for me. And any time that I'm away from there for too long, so I've got to be there as much as possible. People, I actually was during my really bad leg injury I had a couple years ago, when I was going to therapy, and I was a little off kilter one week, and my therapist said, you know what, I'm going to tell your lawyer you need to be in Alaska next week and be up there, because that's your spiritual haven. And it would have been like the last place I thought I would have gone from sunny Southern California to freezing cold. And then I'm up there climbing under glaciers and walking on glaciers and flying in helicopters and overcoming a bunch of fears that I had and different things like that. And really connecting with the Lord. And then I had these experiences, like I said, running into the guy with the knife who tried killing himself, and I was able to share God with him. And here's another one. One of the other stories in my other book, the Is It God or Coincidence book, in chapter 6, along with the story about he handed me the knife, there's another one says I need to talk now. And it was this gentleman who I had met at a 12-step meeting the day before. He sees me the next day on the docks at Juneau. I'm doing some filming, little small stuff, whatever. And he's like, I need to talk now. And I'm like, I'm really, really tired. And the Lord's like, but Rob, this guy needs to talk. So I talked with him. We ended up talking for 4 hours. And he just went on and on and on. And I just listened. And he just kept going and going. He's like, I want to get my story out to the world. And one of the problems was, because he was a junkie at the time, he was in Alaska. Apparently, he had a daughter in California. And so the woman that he was with never let him see the daughter. And I said, well, how long has it been since you saw your daughter? He said, 4 years. I never got to meet her because the girl won't let me come near her. Well, we have this conversation, and he hugs me, he tells me he loves me, and he feels so much better because he got all his junk out of him, because nobody would ever just sit and listen to him. So he's dealt with this stuff for years and years, and that's why he keeps using. 1 year later, Bill, I go back up to Juneau. I mean, I had been in and out, but I had been gone for a couple months. I come back there, and it was a bunch of money for the taxi, and it was only a 9-minute drive. And I thought, let me just relax on the bus here. The buses up there are not like in downtown LA. And so let me I get on the bus, and there's this guy sitting there with a white shirt and a tie on and a haircut. And I look at him and I go, is that the guy I had the conversation with? And before I could even answer my own question, he goes, Rob, how are you, man? And I said, dude, what are you doing? It is you. He goes, I'm on the board of directors of a recovery facility now, and I'm on to the board of directors meeting. And now he has a relationship, and he's continually posting pictures on Facebook of him and his daughter. He's been able to connect with her as well, and now she's a part of his life. So we never know what just simply listening to somebody can do to change their life as well. We don't know the simple assignments that God. Here's what I learned, Bill and Rudy, and those of you, if you're listening right now, that service work is when it's inconvenient. So if I'm in Santa Ana, California, and I'm going up the 55 freeway and you need a ride up the 55, well, yeah, it's nice for me to take you. I'll take you and drop you off. But they don't really consider that service work. But if you tell me, hey, Rob, I got to get out the 405 and I got to get all the way up to Culver City at 5 o'clock rush hour traffic, and I really need to be there, and I don't have a ride. And I'm like, but I'm going the other way, Bill. Well, do I have a choice? I can either say, man, hey, I'm sorry, you'll just have to, or I can say, you know what, apparently the Lord needs me to do something more important than I thought I was going to be doing for myself today. and I get to make those choices. And so just sitting and listening to that guy, following the voice the Lord gave me, right? Because I just followed what he gave me. This guy's now having a relationship with his daughter. I mean, what more satisfaction do we need by just simply taking simple acts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the opportunities when they arise. Rudy over the summer had a heart attack, and the other day, after we saw Jesus Revolution, he had me take him to the ER because he wasn't feeling well, and his leg had given out. He was having trouble breathing. It was feeling like he was having another heart attack. And who was the guy you ended up talking to?
He was a man that I was telling him about God and how to pray to God, because I told him that he shouldn't pray to false idols and all this, so he was listening. And then I told him about how Jesus, that they found Moses' mountain in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. And I told him, when you pray, you ask God to forgive you for your sins so you can go to him as a clean person. And then when you finish praying, you say, I ask you in Jesus' name. So I was telling him a lot of things, and I told him, Jesus said, I am the only way to the Father.
Yes.
So I want to make sure, I always tell people that. I say, hey, no matter what you are, no matter what religion you are, Jesus said, I am the only way. So don't even make it a religion. Just talk to Jesus and let him know that you know that he's the only way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after I talked to him, I came home and I felt better because they were trying to make me wait.
Yeah, he got frustrated at the ER because of the wait time.
So, I left. And then after that, I felt better. I think I was supposed to talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the next day, Rudy was he was fine. It was like nothing had happened. He was feeling bad to get to the ER so that he could talk to that guy about praying.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yep.
That was his job.
And you just got to be ready.
Well, what do we say? What do I get told? You got to be prayed up, right? You got to be prayed up so that way you're ready when those things, right? You got to know enough of the word of the Lord. You got to have lived enough life. You got to have focused on doing good for others. So that way, it's the same thing. What do they say? What is luck? It's opportunity, meets preparation. Right? It wasn't that it just happened to pop up that you're the starting center fielder for the Dodgers, right? You probably put in a lot of years of work in the batting cage and private coaches and all of this other stuff to be ready for when the Dodgers had an opening in center field. Now you were ready, right? When that church needed somebody to come in, you were already working with your dad and you had experience in a church. You had been reading the Bible. You'd been studying the Lord. You've been living life. You've been going through some of the trials and tribulations. And remember, this is what most people forget, at least my experience. We forget that the Bible specifically says trials and tribulations are to be considered blessings, right? But when the money's not there, the job's not there, or the girl's not there, or the guy's not there, or whatever it might be, all of a sudden, like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on, Lord? I can't. And the Lord's sitting there going, have you not read my word? I'm actually blessing you right now. And it's like, I'm sure most people are like, Lord, I would rather be a little less blessed and have a little more money and have a little better job and have a little better relationship and then have to go through this stuff I got to go through every day. And then the Lord says, well, what did Joseph go through for 40 years after his brothers accused him of something crazy? And look what I did for him to do this. And look at Moses. Killed a man, and yet I had him carry the tablets down from the mountain. And it's like, we don't know what the purpose is the Lord has for us. We just need to know that he has an amazing purpose because he created us in his image, right? So part of him is in us. So do you think he's just going to waste him? Basically, do you think he's going to waste himself away for no reason? There's a reason for everything, whether it be
Not at all.
something,
We need to be.
somebody dies or whatever it might be.
Yeah, we need to be purified, like silver. Found out not too long ago that the ancient process of purifying silver involved a lot of very hot flame, and that's why the imagery is used to say it was a very difficult process, and it involved a lot of high heat and a lot of work, and that's what we're to be like. We're to be like silver being purified. Blessings aren't always happy, but they're always good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So if you're struggling,
Rob, we've been at this for quite some time.
we have. I just want to remind people, if you know somebody who's struggling, if you're struggling yourself with alcohol, drugs, recovery, addiction, my latest book, The Lord Asked Me to Write, Cruising Toward Heaven, Navigating from Rough Seas to Miraculous Adventures, is my life history, testimony, what it was like, what I went through, and what it's like now in my ever-revolving relationship with the Lord and how I got to where I am now. And this particular book, my last one, is also up for grabs. Is It God or Coincidence? Coming to Grips with the Unexpected Wonders in Life. And a faith-based film script is almost done. I expect it to be done this week. It's in its final little tweaks, and we'll see what the Lord's got in store for that as well. This one here has stories about the homeless and just all kinds of stories about faith that'll bring tears to your eyes. So grab those on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, or wherever. Oh, it's actually being, you know what's really cool, Bill? It's actually, I just found out that this book, both of these books are actually being sold over in England right now as well, over in London and Manchester.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jolly good.
You just never know, my mate.
Yep, and remember you can you never know where you might have a worldwide effect. But yeah, and remember you can find it all on robekno.com. That's Rob Ekno Ekno, robekno.com. And I'll have the link in the description, so it'll be easy for you to find. Instead of the Amazon links are always so long.
Yes.
But yeah, and but you can certainly find it wherever you like. Give Jeff Bezos a few more dollars.
Well, see, the thing about this is that you are correct.
But anyway,
it's all about getting the word out for the Lord. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah. No. I tease, but Amazon is really such a blessing to people, being able to get books of all different kinds on electronic devices, physically getting a book, and making it easier for people to publish themselves, to be published, and not be at the whims of some big mega publishing house. That doesn't really care about the new author, the small time person.
Correct.
So definitely a good thing. But I like teasing him because he's got billions of dollars and he's not giving me any.
Very cool.
So,
well, I appreciate you having me on again today, and hopefully we touch some hearts and souls, and maybe we'll be able to help somebody.
Hope
and
so.
There's a contact page on my website. If anybody has any questions, please email me, and we'll see what we can do. And hopefully we'll see you down there in your neck of the woods and not too distant future.
Absolutely. I'll talk to Pastor this afternoon. And we'll see about getting you up to speak. So,
sounds.
But
like
anyway, as I always ask my guests before we close, No problem. My pleasure. As I always ask my guests before we close the show, do you have anything to say to the nice people?
No, I just
Some parting words.
ask that. Well, yes, I do, actually. I would like to just encourage everyone to remember that you are a special child of God, created by Him in His image. And if you happen to be going through some challenges and struggles right now, and it looks like there's no way out, there is a way out, because He is sitting right there just waiting for you. And as I went through my struggles and challenges and trials and ran away from God for 9 years and then came back and tweaked it, and now I have this incredible Lord, and He's got me writing books about my experiences. He'll do the same for you. You may not need to be an author, but you will experience His joy and His wonderfulness if you decide that you're going to put Him first in your life. And even if you don't want Him in your life, He'll be sitting there waiting for you someday when you actually do. But I pray that you will not waste another minute in missing out on the absolute most wonderful joys and blessings of the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And I hope you have an incredibly blessed day.
Wow, that was a mouthful. And I completely concur with you. And so I will say farewell to the to the nice people. Remember to be safe out there, wash your hands, and watch the ending credits.
Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I would like to thank my producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch. I, of course, am your humble host.
I'd really like to thank my Ed McMahon, Rudy Corlew.
Yes.
I would especially like to thank my special guest, Rob Ekno. Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. You can find us on Facebook and wherever fine podcasts are offered. Tune in next time when my special guests will be Dr. Christine Sauer and Don Whitty. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people. If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. 988 is the suicide and mental health crisis lifeline here in the States.